Hello, so today we are going to be talking about simultaneous equations. In the GCSE specifications, they tell you that you need to be able to solve simultaneous equations in two variables, and eventually you'll be able to find approximate solutions using a graph. Simultaneous equations begins with level 5, and it goes up to level 8. And we will begin with level 5 questions, just so we can master this before we move on to the more challenging questions. So, to begin with, let's see. Okay. When we have an equation and there's more than one unknown variable, we can have an infinite number of solutions. For example, we have 2x plus y equals 10. For this equation, we'll say x equals 1, which would make y equals 8. We can have x equals 2, which would make y equals 6. Or we can have x equals 3, which would make y equals 4. An infinite number of solutions. To be able to solve an equation like this, one way that we can do it, the most common way to do it, is to have another equation as well, which is called a simultaneous equation. A common example would be, so for example, we would have 3x plus y equals 11. And then we would have 2x plus y equals 8. It is very common for you to see them written one above the other, and if it isn't written this way, this should be your first step to write it like this. You'll see why in a second. What we need to do to be able to solve what x and y is to figure out which one is our common coefficient. Coefficient is the number before the x and the y, so we've got a 3 and we've got a 2 before the x. Not common, it's going to make it complicated if we take away these, so we are going to look at the next one. We've got a 1 in front of this y, we've got a 1 in front of this y. That's what we want. We want to get rid of one of our coefficients, so they need to be the same number. I'm going to take away this first equation, equation 1, from equation 2. If I were to add this, I would have y plus y, which is going to give me 2y. That's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be the solution that we want. We want to get rid of this so we can figure out what x is. So I'm going to do 3x take away 2x, and that's going to give me x. I'm going to do y take away y, which is going to give me 0. So it's going to be x equals 11 take away 8 is going to give me 3. Sorted. We've got the first solution, x equals 3. That's our first section done. Now, I'm going to substitute this x equals 3 into either equation 1 or equation 2. It depends on whichever equation you prefer. Both will give you the same answer if done correctly. So we're going to have 3 brackets 3 plus y equals 11. The reason why I put it in brackets is that in the exam, when I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm anxious, I'm going to know that this 3 is the x that I was doing. I know I have to times these 3. I'm not going to get confused. It's going to make it a lot easier. It's going to make it a lot clearer to me that this is what I need to do. 3 times 3 plus y equals 11. 3 times 3 is 9 plus y equals 11. I'm going to bring the 9 over, which makes it y equals 11 take away 9. Reason why it's minus 9, this is a positive. When you move it over, it gets negative sign. So that makes y equals 2. I can always check this, and if you do have time in the exam, definitely have a go. Check it out. See if it matches. That's how you know you've got the right answer. And if you don't, you can quickly try and see if you've made any silly mistakes in the process. So you can substitute your x value and your y value into either of these equations. I usually do it in the equation that I didn't use. So I would do 2 times 3 plus y, which is 2, should equal to 8. And if it does equal to 8, that's how I know I've got the right answer for my x and my y. If we move on to an exam style question, this is a typical level 5 exam style question. It's 3 marks. When we have level 8, it usually goes up to 6 marks. So this is a very good question for you to master. It will give you that extra push that you need to go from one grade to another. We've got equation 1 and we've got equation 2. Unlike the example that I showed to you before, the coefficients aren't the same. So we need to figure out what we need to do. We need to make them the same. It's completely up to you if you want to change the x or if you want to change the y. I personally change the y. I find it a little bit easier. So I'm going to times the first equation by 2. I put in brackets what I'm doing to show the examiner, to show myself that I know what I'm doing. So the first equation, I'm going to times it by 2. 6 times by 2 is going to give me 12x plus 3y times by 2 is going to give me 6y. And then we've got 12 times by 2, which is going to give me 24. Same thing as we did last time. I'm going to put the second equation underneath it to make it easier for myself. Don't change the second equation because now that when I take away it, I'm going to be cancelling out the y's. 6y take away 6y going to give me 0, and that's what we want. So I'm going to do 12x take away 2x is going to give me 10x. That's a 0. And then 6y take away 6y is going to give me nothing, which equals 24 take away 14 is going to give me 10. We're going to have x equals 10 over 10, x equals 1. So far, I would have 1 mark for the x, the other mark would be for the y, and the final mark would be for the entire method that I use. Now we go and we're going to try and figure out what y is. I could substitute it into either equation 1 or equation 2. It's best not to substitute into the equation that you changed in case you did make a mistake when multiplying, when trying to change the equation, and that could lead to your y answer being wrong. So to play it safe, we're always going to exchange it into our original equations. So I'm going to go into my second one. I'm going to say 2 brackets 1. That means 2 times 1, which is our x value, plus 6y equals 14. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 6y equals 14. Eventually, when you've had so much practice, you might be able to do these mentally. You wouldn't need to write every single step. It is good to write every single step in case the examiner wants to make sure that you've got everything right. It could jeopardize your 1 mark if you don't write every step in case you've made a mistake in between. And yep, so now we've got 6y equals 14 take away 2. 6y equals 12. Y equals 12 divided by 6. Y equals 2. There we go. That's my 3 marks sorted. If I have time, which hopefully you do in your exams, I'm just going to go in, substitute it into one of my equations. So 2 brackets 1 plus 6 brackets 2 should equal to 14. And it does. I can even do it to the same one above it. So I'm going to do 6 brackets 1 plus 3 brackets 2. 6 plus 6 equals 12. That's how I know that I've gotten all 3 marks. This is a typical level 5 question. If we were to do level 8 questions, it would involve x squares, x cubes. They do have a different method, but it is very important to have this sort of structure of what you do. First step is you make sure the coefficients are the same. You take away either the x or the y to get rid of it, figure out what x is or figure out what y is, then substitute it back into our original equation to find out what the other coefficient is. And if you do have time, then definitely check your x and your y's, fit both equations, so that's how you know you're secure with the 3 or 6 marks. And yeah, so that is the standard process that you take when solving simultaneous equations. The best way to practice with this would be just to do so many exams papers, and eventually it's going to come like second nature when you're answering a question like this. And if you do have any questions, please let me know, and hope that was all okay. Thank you.